deal with airplane peanuts.
Welcome to the 9th episode of the Joke World podcast. Today's guest, thank you for joining us. We have Mike Cannon on.
What's up, man?
What's up? Good to meet you, dude.
Good to meet you as well. So it's we were going to do it in person when I was out in Tampa, but that fell through, but I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for making that adjustment. How'd you enjoy the Tampa shows?
I liked it, man. It was great. Of course, I was there during the weekend where the Lightning were playing the Rangers and the NBA Finals was happening. So it's like every fan of mine that does not care for sports at all and some begrudging came through. So it was nice, but I felt bad that I was tearing them away from their local celebration.
Yeah. Are you a big sports guy? I know that you like hoops, but you into basketball?
I'm big basketball, big football, a little bit baseball here and there. Mm-hmm. Like I like the live events way more than following it on TV or anything. For sure. But golf here and there. I follow pretty much everything. I just don't like. The only thing I really truly invest time in is basketball. Okay,
so what did you think about last night? Because I mean, did you think it was weird? Well, let me hear what you think. But I thought it was really strange how Steph was like laying on the floor while the game was still like. I get, dude. It wasn't his first championship. It wasn't like. Maybe it might have been the most impressive, but at this point, like, you're considered one of the greats. I don't think it was that shocking. You were up 22 points. They had their scrubs in. For me, it was like, I don't get. It was. I thought that was weird at the end.
I think this is the year where we've found out that rich people still read comments. You know what I mean? Like from Will Smith to Elon Musk to the fucking Warriors and every other NBA player. Steph is doing the I thing, like the zero championship. Like they're all quoting other people that wronged them or
Clay
didn't think
like direct quotes to that Grizzlies player.
Which I don't mind that because that's another player. So it's like, fuck out of here. But in general, like it's interesting, man. These guys are insanely talented and absolute petty, sensitive children. Like, and
so true.
I guess you gotta be on some level.
I mean, and how could you not? Because I feel like growing up, like I was like, these guys are just like superheroes. And then as I've become like the same age as them, like I'm the same age as Jason Tatum, and I'm just like, oh, these are just like dudes are just freaks at one thing.
Yeah.
And then they're just normal people for the most part. I mean, like, LeBron's probably not a normal person at this point. That's too much celebrity. But, like, for the most part, a lot of these dudes are just, like, probably reading the comments and taking them to heart. They're just normal people that are great at throwing a ball. Like,
well, and it's how they grew up. Like, they grew up with social media, so it's hard. It's as hard for them to pry away from it as it is for us.
Yeah.
Apparently. I did have this, like, dream life in mind that once I reached a certain level of financial stability, I would like never even consider the internet's opinion again.
Yeah.
But apparently, like watching these guys, that just never comes.
No. I mean, maybe that's why he was so emotional because, like, you could say it's his first MVP, and I wouldn't even. I mean, and I'm a Cavs fan, so like this was kind of. I don't really like them the most, and I don't think you can even count the Durant championships. That is just like the most. I don't even know why they played those 2 seasons for the whole NBA. Like they should have just given them to him before the season. That team was just insane. So I guess I get a little bit why this one would be different. But you're right. It's clear that they are like it was more than just beating the Celtics.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, for Steph, I get it. And Clay, I certainly get it because he was away for like 3 years or whatever it was. You know, he hadn't played basketball for a long time. So the fact that his first season back, they won a chip, that's pretty incredible. I think like Draymond running around being like, what can they say now? What can they say now? It's like, I don't know, man. Your game high for the series was like 11. Like, that's what they can say. Shut up.
Your prop was 3.5 points. Like, serious, like for real. Like, what do you mean, dude?
And I like Draymond. I genuinely do like him, and I think he's got like. I think he'll have a sick media career for sure. Like he's going to be the next generation's Charles Barkley. Yeah, but he like, again, it goes back to this sensitivity, which I think the reason it bothers me so much is because I'm also a sensitive baby, and I look to these guys to be better than me, and they're not. Yeah,
I agree. And sometimes it feels weird to see someone like Draymond like crying and being all sensitive when it's like, dude, you're like 6'9", like you're a monster. You're fucking like you don't need to be like. listening to the chirps of these dudes, like, dude, I don't know. He's made the best Hall of Fame career off being on the team with like the most insane shooters of all time, and then I hate Draymond, but I can.
I just think, he's like, he's similar in the way that he plays to like Dennis Rodman, maybe a little more like offensively minded. Yeah. But for the most part, it's just like, hey man, you really like, you hit the lottery, you figured out what you needed to do, and you did those things. But then also you have to give credit to the NBA and how they've just coddled him as an athlete and a human being, because most of the shit that he does would be a technical flagrant ejection for truly anybody else in the league.
For real, dude. The one clip of him like people are going over his shoulder. He's like, dude, he's the moving screen king, which works so well when you have two of the best shooters of all like. And I don't know. I'm so anti-Drake. It's like, oh, everyone wants to be like, oh, he's like the smartest player in the NBA. Maybe it's like, really, would the smartest player in the NBA be kicking people in the balls and getting ejected when he knows his team needs him? Like, I don't think he's the smartest player in the NBA. I think he's got a huge temper and can throw it to anyone on his team and they will just make it from anywhere. Like, come on,
I'd like to see how that IQ would do on the Knicks.
I'd put up 2 assists in Golden State a game, I swear.
Easy, man. Easy. If you could just get me to swing the ball, I'd have 8-9 assists if you played me for 20 minutes. No problem.
How I asked my roommate this the other day. I love sports hypotheticals. Who doesn't? How many, if you had to start the first 10 minutes of that game last night, what was Golden State? I think they were plus 3.5 or something going into the game. Or what would the line change for? And you can actually play, but you have to go.
It would be, it's substantial. We'd have to be like a 20 point, it would have to be at least 20. I don't know how high the lines go, but I would be. Everybody, but I myself too, like watch Trae Young, and I'm like, this guy doesn't play D. He stinks.
Small.
He's just an Olay. Like there's no effort being put in. I am a doily, like a human doily in comparison to him. I would just be completely busted through anybody with any type of physicality, speed, herky jerky, whatever. I'd tear my Achilles within 11 seconds of being on the floor.
I think Marcus Smart would make me cry if he was guarding me, for real. Marcus Smart is out of his mind.
Dude, so that's what's amazing about the athlete sensitivity, right? Is that like all of them are very clearly, keyed into their own shit. They have their own issues. They chirp it back out into the world. But on the court, these guys say like unforgivable shit to each other, like crazy. I mean, think about Kevin Garnett saying to Carmelo that his wife tasted like Honey Nut Cheerios. Like that moment in shit talk, that kind of stuff happens all the time. And it's like, that was my huge downfall as an athlete, is I would let my emotion and temper key into moments like that and completely take me out of the game. So I do not have the mental fortitude to deal with even like a D-level shit talker in the NBA.
Yeah, then imagine that from the whole arena too. I mean, you can't hear it specific. What do you remember any specific like times where someone really got you good with a chirp?
I mean, I remember when an entire crowd got me good with a chirp. So I played junior college basketball, which can either be high level or really low level. It kind of depends where you play. We ended up being a pretty serious team that played against Division I, guys that couldn't. They had 40s on their SATs.
Right.
So they couldn't go play anywhere, but they were like athletic freaks. Like
Ben Wallace, I think was a
exactly. Just guys that like couldn't get the grades, but are certainly par with that kind of talent pool. And we played Sullivan County Community College in upstate New York. It's like an hour and a half outside of the city, and the entire room, I was like one of 2 white people in the entire 500 plus sat. For whatever reason, community college games were the shit in this town. We never got crowds like that at our home gym, but for whatever reason, this was like the social event of the evening.
That's hilarious.
Their entire campus packed into this gym. And again, I'm used to this. I played hoops my entire life, so that never bothered me before at all. But this entire crowd, as if they got together beforehand, every time I touched the ball, chanted "cracker." So literally 500 strong. Every time I touched the ball, we're just like "cracker, cracker."
Holy
and this is like
shit.
this is not even the end, dude. So this is back when I had, a ton of self-confidence before life has truly kicked me in the teeth. and I thought anything could go wrong.
Yeah, you're still balling.
Yeah, exactly. I had that mentality. So my first shot, I put up no problem. I put up my first shot probably 2 or 3 minutes into the game, several cracker chants later, and I just drill a perfect swing pass from the top of the key 3, and I look into the crowd because they're only sat on one side, and it's just 500 wall of people. And I look, and I kind of hustle down, and I grab my nuts at the whole crowd, like a slight kind of grab of my nuts.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and they're just like silent. And then after, it probably was like 2 beats, 3 beats, but it felt like a minute. It's totally silent. Some guy goes, "Probably the first shot you ever hit, faggot." And the entire place erupted in cheers. And I was just like, my soul, like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat, touched down and put his hand on my shoulder.
There's
my
no
soul
coming
was
back
sucked
from
out.
that.
Nothing. I didn't score for the rest of the game.
You gotta check out. You gotta ask for a sub. That's hilarious, dude. That's so funny when there's a silence and you can have a whole captive audience like in public like that.
Yeah, that person maximized
awesome.
their time.
That is awesome, dude. Good for that guy. That guy. So it seems like you're grabbing your nuts. You're talking back a little bit. Were you all? You also like to get in the shit talk?
Yeah, but again, like I've only recognized this as an adult. You know what I mean? Like while I was in it, I thought that's what drove me: the emotion, the anger, the blah blah blah. But as an adult, I've just recognized that I'm like paralyzed by that shit.
Yeah,
it never helps me at all. I'm almost like a wet cat every time I get angry because I'm so fucking scared and angry and whatever that I have very little control over what I do or
that
say.
Makes sense.
So I used to think that it helped, but now I just know that like had I not gotten sucked into that, I probably would have been a little bit better.
Yeah, that's so true because like playing AU and stuff growing up, like I was on mostly the team of other suburban kids, and like we got into this tournament, and then sometimes you'd play a team from like Detroit or somewhere local, and it's like I'm so scared to be on the court right now. Like this is like they're like trapping full court, and you're like, dude. But in your head, you're growing up in like 7th grade. You're like, I have to be like Kobe. I have to have the Mamba mentality. I like shit. Exactly what you just said. You're like, no, like this is part of it. This is what Jordan would be doing. And now growing up, it's like I'm way less of Kobe. I'm way more of like Kevin Love, dude. I'm like, I'm
the sensitive guy that's having.
I just want to play basketball. If someone's shit talking to me, I'm just like, okay, I just want this to be over, dude. Okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, all that stuff. I was just like, I got sucked into that stuff, and I did like it. There was part of me that really truly liked it, even especially at the playgrounds, like because my favorite thing in the entire world was I was a flashy, inefficient player. So I love Jason Williams. He was my guy. Yeah. Just players like that.
That's perfect for pickup basketball.
Exactly. Yeah. I was a world-class pickup, whatever, organized player. And so at Parks, I'd bust ass and then would like chirp and do all that shit, and I loved it. And then you take it to a real game with like real stakes and real coaching and real audience, and it's like it's a completely different ball game. Wow.
I could not agree more. I didn't expect to be talking about our basketball game this much, but I couldn't even agree more because like I still play every Tuesday pickup outside here, and it's like in those games when there's no fouls and I can just like go drive as hard, like put my head down, and it'd be an offensive foul every single time I go to the bucket. It would be an offensive foul, or my coach would be like, "What are you doing?" Like in fake basketball, it's so fun to like just go hard and like be chirping and talking shit. But then like with an actual coach and an offense and like real refs and jerseys on, it's like, this is different, dude. I don't.
Yeah, and a game plan.
Like
a game plan that does not account for your ego.
And a clock too. It's not like the first team to get to 12 points. It's like this keeps going. Yeah,
exactly.
It's so different. That's fun. So when did you realize like, I don't think I'm gonna be in the NBA?
So late. Like, so embarrassingly late.
Dude.
That's why, like, and I know people that are familiar with me are so annoyed by how much I talk about sports and my ex sport athlete days.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not even talking about them from a I was the man perspective.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it as like, it was so formative and also important to me in my entire life.
Yeah.
It's
all you
basically
know.
it's exactly all I know, and it's basically been my dad. Like this sounds weird, but it's like my dad and I, he didn't teach me a lot of man shit. So all of the man shit that I learned came from coaches and sports. Like that's it.
Right.
So how to be tough, how to be a leader, how to not complain, how to communicate with teammates. Like all of that stuff truly came from sports and not my father. So that's why it's like I almost talk about it like it's a family member.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
But the NBA, I mean, I probably figured out the NBA when I was junior or senior in college. Like, so, but this is like pre stats on the internet. Like they were just kind of happening, pre mixtapes. So I have a bit on my special about it, but it's like, I didn't know really what else was out there besides what I had traveled to play. And I matched up fine, you know, even in JUCO, I played against guys that were like really good, but I belonged on the court.
You're like, this is the whole world of basketball.
Exactly.
Players.
Yeah. And the bit is like, if I scrolled through and had I known that there were Zion Williamsons in existence, like a 15-year-old that was windmilling from the free throw line, I would have probably just picked up a new hobby.
Yeah, that's great.
But super late.
It's I kind of relate to that because I played Division III football, which is basically just like people who had a good time playing in high school and are just like, I want to do that again for
It's
4
still
years.
hard though, man. What needs to be said about that is you're right in the sense of like the talent pool.
Yeah.
But it's like high school football is hard.
Yeah.
Like the workouts, everything is hard.
Yeah.
D3 is like a real college program.
Oh yeah.
Where you have to wake up, weightlift, all that stuff.
For sure.
But
it was grueling, but I've just found, because I like to have a sense of humor about things, if I ever try to talk about Division III and give it its actual respect, people will just be like, shut the fuck up. But so it's just easier for me to just shit on it and just deep down I know that it's a real thing, but just to be like yeah, fucking pussies playing D3, but like I mean, we won a national championship. It was a great program.
What position did you play?
Receiver at
cool.
at Mount Union. But my whole, because I grew up in Cleveland, and my whole life, everyone in my family, my dad went to Ohio State, and the biggest Ohio State fan still now. And I was just like, yeah, I'll probably win a Heisman at Ohio State at some point. and then I go, obviously not good enough, even close to get recruited anywhere. Almost not even good enough to even play at at the D3 school. I was still kind of riding the bench the whole time, but. Even my freshman and sophomore year, I would be like lifting extra and being like, I think I could transfer to Ohio State. I could get some good film here. I could transfer to Ohio State. And then it's like, dude, their draft class this year, they had 2 receivers in the first like 5 picks. I'm like, that was like 5 years ago. I was still completely delusional. I don't understand. Like looking back, it's like, how could you even think that? It's funny that
because
sports,
it's necessary. It's similar to comedy. In the sense that like you need that delusion to survive at first, like at least at first, and then I don't know about you and how your coaches were, but I never had like real high level coaches. Like especially now, like all the stuff that I see is available on YouTube and tutorials and things and trainers and this and that. Like I'm super jealous of the skill set a lot of the young kids had because there's just more available to them. I had like math teachers that were my basketball coach and shit, and like my English teacher who was also the baseball coach wanted an extra $5,000 so he also coached the basketball team, and like that's kind of changed the trajectory of some kids' future by not playing them because he for sure didn't like my game. I should have started as a sophomore, and instead I got sent down to JV after making varsity, where I averaged 27 points a game on JV.
Holy shit.
And it's like, dude, if I'm averaging 27 on JV, I just shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be playing JV. It doesn't make sense. And I'd get called up to varsity practices and do well, but he just hated how I played.
That's bizarre, because I'm sure the other JV coaches were like, what is wrong with this coach? Like, what? Or is this kid just having an insane game? Or like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, that's
it was games, but it also like, now I look back at those seasons that were like with my real of age friends, like JV sophomore year, because I was always kind of playing ahead a little bit.
Right.
And that was one of the most fun seasons. I played one season of football because, again, my coach, I got recruited for soccer as well growing up because I was third leading scorer, I think, behind 2 seniors as a sophomore.
Right.
And so the next year, basically the car keys are handed over to me. This should be my team. And instead, my coach was just like an alcoholic that benched me inexplicably, never explained why. I had conversations with him. He just couldn't really articulate why he hated me. So he definitely changed the trajectory of me potentially playing in college. And instead I played football as a senior and had the time of my life with my friends.
Dude, that's crazy because one, he was probably just like, why is this kid even, I don't care about soccer. Why the fuck is this kid even asking me about this? This is just like a hobby, like pickup game almost. And also that's so wild to like start playing football your senior year of high school. And then like, I don't know. That's awesome that it was such a good experience because I feel like hearing all that like makes me think like things have changed a lot, or maybe I went to a good program for high schools because dude, our high schools like, and I graduated high school in 2016, and we did we had a speed and strength class that you could take that our coaches would make you sign up for as a credit. So 8th period every day we'd have an hour of lifting, and but you only junior or freshmen and sophomores could take that class. So after that junior and senior year, if you wanted to play football, it was mandatory 6 a.m. lifting before high school at the high school 4 days a week, practice after that, off-season stuff. Like it was pretty similar to my experience in college, but obviously it's very like I feel like nowadays there's a lot of programs in high schools that are like, we're taking this like completely serious. Like we had a strength and conditioning coach in our high school. Yeah. And that just is like, you just have some math teacher that's like, I don't know anything about soccer and I'm drunk right now.
Well, the coach of my high school that I went to now was an assistant, like first year assistant when we started, and now he's like one of the longest tenured coaches in school history. They've won the sections like 5 to 10 times. It's like uncounted how many times they've been to, states, like all this shit, and he's like a real true basketball coach. So again, it's like it's just jealousy. Like it's pure jealousy to be like, man, you guys really have an established thing going here and you know exactly what you're doing, as opposed to the just like grabbing in the dark bullshit that we did.
Literally just like, if you guys want to play, like I guess just go.
Go have at it. We'll run a motion.
Yeah. 5 out. Would you say that like when you're in like, people could call it the flow state, when you're up on stage like in the moment and you're not thinking about what you're doing, you're just loving being a comedian, versus when you were just like out on the court just saucing people up, just not even thinking about it, just like going off? Is that similar feelings, or do you have one preference to another of comedy versus just hooping?
That's a great question. It is similar, I think, and this isn't to say that that comedy is unsatisfying. I do think that like I've had games where I just went off and went crazy and had like 9-10 threes and like truly could not miss. It's like that Michael Jordan quote about the 92 finals when he hit 6 threes in the first half, and he's like, the rim just looked like a big old bucket and I was just bucking from everywhere. And it's like sometimes you just get into that where your brain almost isn't conscious. You're just kind of moving and your body is responding to everything, like Bruce Lee, like be water, like do that shit. And that's how I look at Steph Curry, where I'm like, this guy operates on a different level of consciousness sometimes when he's out on the court. Like he's like fucking Tesla harnessing electricity. Dude, just running up and down.
He's like airbending, dude.
Exactly. It's crazy the way in which he goes. But then also, if you're in stand-up, and I've had those sets, even I had one in Tampa where it was like, I'm in this odd place right now where I just put out an hour. So I'm scrapping that entire, trying to scrap the entire thing, but I'm also going into markets for the first time, so I have to put on a good fucking show. So I have to use maybe some of that and use some of the stuff from older albums to supplement exactly the new that I have. And that 8 o'clock Saturday show, which is typically the hottest show of the weekend, but this one, it could go either way, but this one was really great. My 20 new minutes turned into 35, and it's just like one of those things where I'm in and out of the crowd, I'm changing gears without even thinking about it. You're operating. It's almost like this is how it should be, and it's like, yes, sure, but it's also like it's special when that happens. It's like there is something that comedians, performers, or whoever are tapping into that things can go well without that. But when you are connected to that, when you are like, it is a pure symbiotic relationship between you and the audience, and there's just some unspoken connection and things are just like firing, man, there is nothing fucking better than that.
Yeah, damn. That sounds romantic, dude. That is. So I hear, comics say all the time, like, they can tell when a show maybe doesn't go as good, even though the audience would have no idea.
Yeah.
And the reverse of that, do you think that show you're just describing right now, do you think that people even can pick up on that, or is that just an internal thing because everything that's happening?
So some people do. It's a great question. Again, it's like I think that show in particular, this is very funny actually. So because I got negged so hard after destroying on that show. So that was one of those shows where like afterwards the lobby is a madhouse. The people that are there for the next show are like, what the fuck just happened in there? People are taking pictures. They're like, holy shit, that was such a fun show. Like best time ever, blah, blah, blah. And, so certainly they felt the connection. It's not just the performance. There was something more about it, right? And then this guy, giant dude, giant black guy wearing a fedora, and we kind of had a back and forth during the show that went well. Wasn't too like there was nothing like I didn't slam him or anything like that. I made mention of the hat. I offered to wear the hat for the rest of my set. It was like a fun little thing that everybody cheered. And then after the show, people are just like taking pictures. There's so much love there. And he like kind of grabs me away from somebody that was complimenting me. And he had this huge smile on my face. And he goes to dap me up and he goes, man, Chappelle, you are not.
Wow.
I was so taken aback for several reasons, because one, I've never compared myself to him as my favorite comedian of all time. It's like I wouldn't ever do that. I don't talk about the same things. Frankly, gender doesn't even interest me all that much, and I've never pretended. And it was like a smile slam. Yeah. So he was so warm.
God, that's psychotic, dude. It
was insane. So I dapped him up, and then my face changed because I was kind of like looking at him like, why do you think that this is okay? Like, why do you think that this is your job to try to take me down a peg? So I did
you like the fedora that much that you guys
yeah, dude, he was livid about the fedora. It was a big confidence purchase, and apparently I really poked some holes in that.
Before he went out, he was like, should I wear the fedora? I don't know.
But it's kind of a magic moment where it's like you realize things as you go in comedy, right? So I'm 14 years in, just about, and it's gotten to the point now where I'm still an insecure mess, but there are moments where you feel like you're breathing fire and you figured it out. You got this whole thing locked. And this was one of those moments where this guy just to my face told me to suck his dick, basically, in other words. And he's like there, and he's continuing to put me down. Like he's just like saying, but again, with a smile. And so I just kind of looked at him, turned my head, and then just without mention, just turned my back to him and then started taking pictures with everybody
with the people
else.
That are like, that was amazing. Like that
exactly.
Was,
like I was locked into this one-on-one interaction, and I was like, why am I choosing to take this abuse? And I was like, I don't even have to say anything. I could just turn and be disrespectful because he feels comfortable putting that shit on me. Yeah. So fuck him. And as I'm turning, I could literally hear him be like, "Oh, look at this motherfucker turn around now." He's
like, like he somehow won that interaction. It's like, dude. Also, like him thinking that like after your first show at Side Splitters, you're like, I'm fucking Dave Chappelle, dude. I am like also like you're not, like you said, you have completely different. I don't know. It took him all show to I like him sitting in the audience being like, what am I going to say after? I might smile, I'll do the dap, but then I'm going to slip in this Chappelle comment. That's hilarious. And I love the way that you just turn because that's a thought that I would have sitting there being like, is this even real? Like I could just turn around and I wonder what would even, and then you just did it. And it all.
And the thing is, it's not really real. Like this guy is just whatever, hurt people or whatever, or he's just a lunatic. It's just one of those things where like, this is kind of the time, but people like to debate reality right now and like to debate what just happened. And it's like, dude, say you don't like me, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to say anything. You could just not like me. And
also,
then
you could
go
just
home.
leave. You don't have to stand in line to tell me that you don't like me.
Super bizarre decision to do that. But it's also like, you can't debate what happened. Like, I said things, and the response was positive.
Right.
Like, objectively positive. There's no way to look at it otherwise. So it's a weird thing to kind of come in and be like, I'm going to poison this well a little bit just to, like, kind of try to ruin this guy's night. But it's also props to you for just, like, because isn't it crazy how, like, nowadays anyone can just get in your ear about anything? Yeah.
Like everyone has complete access to you or anyone, whether it be online, like, you know, like people have access to Klay Thompson's head, like we were talking about before. Like, that's crazy. That's insane. And so, and also, like, it's sometimes I think it's strange how at these comedy clubs, people might even be surprised, like, how easy it is to really just after the show, like, interact with the comedians. Like, and you can say whatever you want. Most of the time, though, I feel like people are like, they go buy a ticket because they want to see the show.
Yes.
So it's like, do you have a lot of weird interactions after shows, or was this maybe a...
Yeah, well, especially now, like, you know, post during whatever phase of COVID we're in, you know, I'm sure anybody would have a problem with however I'd frame that, but you know, but post,
I'm in Tampa, so it's been post the whole time.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, dude,
or pre, or what?
So I was there in March of 2021, and that was like my first big road, like fly somewhere. To do stand up since the pandemic, because in New York we were locked down, like it was just more of a thing, and there was zero social reluctance in Florida. Like nobody, everybody was just close breathing, didn't give a fuck, and I'm like shivering when people approached 8 feet. So it was weird, but also like kind of nice. It reminded me of how humans interact, which is great. But yeah, I mean, since COVID began, it's either given people a license to be psychotic, or it's actually tripped people's mental acuity to being psychotic, because the behavior that people are exhibiting now is so
bizarre.
I mean, socially unacceptable and bizarre on every single level. And it's as if they just kind of took the shackles off and were like, everybody is going to hold my mental illness from now on. Like, they just give you a duffel bag of their issues and are like, you deal with it.
Yeah, and they're like, and I'm the normal one too somehow.
Right.
It's like, oh, dude, I was. It's almost like everyone kind of lost their minds, and no one even realizes it still.
Not
like,
at all.
It seems like, oh, it's kind of over, or like, it seems like it's over or whatever. But like, people are not the same. Like, like life is weird, dude. Still, people are losing their minds, and I feel like I am too a lot of times. But a lot of times I just feel like so detached, where I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I've been into simulation theory. I'm just like, whatever, dude. Like, like I'm just gonna keep doing my day to day, my personal shit, because like, what am I like? Is this real, dude? I don't even know.
Yeah, how else are you gonna just navigate life besides just acceptance and be like, all right, like, you know, I can't fight this because it's out of my control. But like, so a big part of my special is about our living. We lived at my in-laws, my wife's parents, for like 14 months during the pandemic. Like, you know, we knew it was coming. We had a lease that was up in Brooklyn. We were going to extend had everything been different. We were going to live there for a long time, but everything happened. I rely on congregation to make money. My wife owns a floral company, so she does big events, so she relies on congregation. We have a brand new baby, and we just kind of like hunkered down at my in-laws for what we thought was going to be a few weeks, a month tops. And instead it was 14 months of my father-in-law like perpetually radicalizing during like, and I've been around this. I used to host a conspiracy theory podcast, so I know what this is, and I know the lather and the spin out. But I was the only person that he looked to and that would listen. So I was his sounding board, belligerent sounding board for 14 fucking months. So my entire grasp of reality was shaken.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't really believe. I mean, I still kind of don't because of all the interactions since, but not with my father-in-law, but with everybody. It's like I no longer have belief in people.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, I don't know. I don't know if I have belief in anything anymore. I believe in science. I remember when this first started, texting my girlfriend like, this will probably only take like a week, right? And then, you know, scientists can figure this out, dude. These nerds, they'll be on it. All the technology we have, all the brains.
Yep.
Apparently not. I was like so let down by the scientists. I also remember, it's funny, you were like how short everyone thought it was going to be. We were on spring break. It was my senior year of college. We were on spring break and we got a message that we were going to be remote the rest of the semester, but we're all in Fort Lauderdale right now being like, let's fucking go. We're all going back to campus. We're all remote. It's going to be a party the rest of the time. But no, none of us saw each other ever again. We all had to go home. We all had to go home and like stay with our parents and be like the spring of our senior year, just like this fucking, like that was the most depressed. It sounds so stupid.
Did
now,
you get
but, like,
a break on tuition?
No, but we got a break on all. We got the option to do pass fail for that last semester. So
I mean, I guess, but it's like cool. I get to pay 40
I was graduating
grand for a pass
anyway.
fail.
Yeah, I was like I was gonna graduate, and it was stupid because they only did a C- was a fail, and I was like, that's not a fail. A fail is an F. F stands for fail. You can't say that we can do pass fail and then I get a C. I earn my C-.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I also got a C-. This is crazy because I'm now running this channel, but the class was psychology of humor. And I just wanted to do it because someone told me that the final was that you do stand up for the final.
Oh, cool.
And it was like most of your grade, and I had already been at Hilarities at this point and like fine, and I was like, dude, I'm just not gonna have to do anything the whole time, then I'll just pass the final already. Like no one else in this class has a tight 5 already. This will be easy. And it was like, and I wrote an email to get into the class because you had to have prereqs to get into this psychology class.
Oh, wow.
And I was not part of psychology at all. It was like a higher level psychology class, but I just liked the stand-up part. So I was like, hey, I've been in these few comedy competitions and I did pretty well in these rounds, and sent him some clips. I was like, I just want to be part of this class. Like, I don't have any psychology classes yet. And the guy let me in, and it was like loosely based on humor, but mostly psychology.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is so hard, dude. Like, I was a marketing and sport business major, and I'm like, dude, this is fucking, when do we get to do the stand-up? And we never got to do it because we all had to go home because of COVID.
Oh my God.
It was just pass fail, but I got the C-. I would have failed, so I had to take a C- for psychology of humor.
Jesus.
And now that's
well, that's similar to my college experience because I did the 2 years at junior college, played basketball. I got recruited to a couple other schools. I ended up choosing Geneseo, SUNY Geneseo, which is in upstate New York near Rochester. It's a very good academic school. I thought it could set me up for whatever I wanted to do after that. It was like between advertising and maybe becoming a basketball coach. Like I was just thinking of those things. And so a lot of my credits didn't transfer, which is weird because it was SUNY to SUNY, and that was like the big push on why you go to one and then do the other. Right. And it just like would not transfer through. So I had to take a full language course, like three of them to get through and get my language requirement, which was insane because I was an advertising and journalism major. Yeah. And so I do that. I go to I stayed up in campus during the winter. I did a summer course. I did my final semester was a spring course with a full-on Ecuadorian woman who had no teaching experience. They just took her, were like, you're Spanish, and threw her in Ecuador. Dude, she couldn't, we actually staged a small sit-in at my dean's office because of this teacher, because we were like, shit. We're not we're not Spanish majors. Yeah. We have questions in English. We don't know what we're doing, and she is truly incapable of answering the questions. It's not her fault. She's just incapable. Right. And so they did a pass-fail thing with us, but it was stressful. I did all this stuff, got on the graduation roster, didn't walk because my parents were going through a divorce at the time, so I didn't want everybody to show up and it be a huge issue. A year later, but, graduated, all that stuff. A year later, my mom gets a letter home, and this is after, I think they may have even sent the diploma or sent proof of graduation, and they sent a letter home saying I was 3 credits short, and the class I was missing is public speaking. And I've since like messaged that, you know, I tried at the time. I was like brand new with comedy, and I was like, hey, like I'll do stand up. I'll write a thesis. I'll pay for the credits. Like let me do this. And they were like, no, you have to come up here for the class. And I was like, fuck you. I will absolutely never say a positive thing about your institution again. Geneseo State University, the SUNY school, is a dog shit college, and the people that run it are a bunch of fucking Western New York milk hicks.
Let's go. Fuck them. Let's go. That's hilarious. It's so funny to be like, no, you didn't pass public speaking. You're like, I'm a comedian. I did. Yeah. So when did it first start? Like, when did comedy first start becoming part of your life, and then when did it first start becoming part of something that you wanted to do with your life?
So part of my life, I always like, you know, this is all the way back to like TGIF. Like we would watch Family Matters, and I would love the pratfalls. I was weirdly, even as a young kid, super into In Living Color. Like I was always an In Living Color guy over Saturday Night Live. I love Jim Carrey. I love the weigh-ins. Like I just thought what they were doing was cooler, in my opinion. I just wasn't keyed into SNL. And Jim Carrey's physicality, all that stuff. So I was doing those things while being an athlete. Like I was always the funny guy on the team. You know, I had to ingratiate myself and find my social place amongst everybody. Right. And it kind of got to the point where in 7th grade, my English teacher, she gave me 20 minutes at every Friday at the end of the last period of the day, which was called Quiet Study, and she gave me 20 minutes to do stand-up like every week for a while. And I was mostly doing like, have you ever
20
seen
minutes?
I know, yeah. I was just doing like, you know, I was copying Dana Carvey. I was copying Jim Carrey. Like Dana Carvey's first hour kind of got me into stand-up, where it was like him doing the OJ stuff, the music stuff, like all that. I love that hour so much that I would basically just do that on a loop every single week. Movie quotes, you name it, stuff like that. And I mean, even as young as 7, though, I watched my dad and my grandfather die laughing at Carlin's Jammin' in New York. And that like kind of put something in my brain where I was like, oh, that's how you get their attention. You know, I was like, maybe I could do something like that and you know, it'd get their attention, get more people's attention. It's all about attention for me. And then when I was playing junior college basketball, I started taking courses. Like I took TV production, I took radio production because it was all part of my communications and journalism major. And that stuff got me into potentially being a performer. Where like my, you know, this is how desperate I was for a father figure. Is one of my teachers was like, I was super politically inclined at the time. He was like, you remind me of Jon Stewart. And I was like, well, Dad, thank you very much. I'm now off on this career path. And that was basically the deciding factor of what made me a stand-up. He gave me all these different tapes of The Daily Show, early Daily Show with Jon Stewart, told me to watch it, study it, and I did, and started writing my first bit of stand-up, you know, with my teammates. I'd have them check it out. They thought I was funny. And, you know, from there, the interest grew, and I did my first ever open mics up in Geneseo, which is kind of the only positive experience I can glean from that, from those 2 years. And then after that, it was kind of like a slow start in the city because I had to get a job. I had to like find my footing. I had to move out of Rockland County and into the city, and, you know, figured that whole thing out. So in 2008, the year after I graduated, or 6 months, I guess, that's when I really started to hit the ground and just do open mics, I barked a lot in Times Square, so I was handing out flyers and tickets in fucking sub-0 degree weather. I was poorly dressed, like I had Converses on for no reason, so my feet were freezing. It was just like, But again, like, talk about romantic, is I'm so into comedy. Like, I love it. I've read every single book there is. I used to play poker for a living, and I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on DVDs, albums, comedy, whatever, books, you name it. Like, all of this sort of stuff, because when I become obsessed and addicted to something, it just becomes my entire life. So while I'm out there freezing my dick off, the thing that got me through was that delusion we were talking about. A little bit of delusion. Like, this is the romanticization of the careers. These guys had to do this. I'm passing out flyers. Eventually I'll be able to tell this on Joke World. You know, like this will be an interview piece that I'll be able to talk to people about. And it just like, if you really convince yourself that that's what you're doing, you can kind of get through anything.
Yeah. That's cool. Did you look back on some of the, like, maybe the things that you thought were so important that really weren't, that might have been kind of bullshit? Like, I remember being like, dude, I got to go to the library and get like how to write jokes and books like that. And it's like, those, maybe you disagree. I feel like a lot of that shit does absolutely nothing. Like, the way to do it is just to do it to a certain extent. Or maybe like nowadays you have so much like footage of like so many successful people like talking about stories like that, or like talking about how they started and where they are. And I feel like, dude, just like go listen to some, like, a lot of podcasts and just like, there's so much
now especially like, that's like
info out there.
I think when I started, WTF may have just started, like, so that was like, I was locked the fuck into that show. I couldn't believe that there were comedians talking so in depth about comedy and you know, exposing what it's like and their struggle with it and stuff. So I got super into that. I'm never a book or class guy, obviously, and you know, so I learned the hard way. That's why it's taken me a long time to get good, in my opinion, and I still think that I have a lot to grow, but I can't take lessons from people. It's like one of my major character flaws. So I had to watch, observe, take note internally, and then put it into practice by myself. It's just not something that somebody could sit me down and tell me.
So how did you get going after because we were talking about a little bit before this about, because this is something I just personally want to know. We were talking a little bit before this about my relationship to actually doing stand-up is like, I love it, but I, at this point in my life, only getting up like once every 1 or 2 months. I can't call myself a comedian, but when I go up there, I feel like, you know, I think I do very well, but I'm doing the same thing every time. It's not that exciting. I'm not growing and I know so much from editing clips and all this stuff of people saying what it takes to really get there. And I know for a fact I'm not doing that, but how do you get from the first, like, I don't know. How do you just get into the rhythm of like, I'm going to do this to me, when I'm going to do stand-up, I'm gearing myself up all day. I'm writing out my jokes. I'm like, all right, let's do this. It's going to be great. And it is. But then I don't know then I'm like riding that high for 10 days. And I'm just like, I'm the man for like 10 days. And then I start getting sad again because I'm like, I haven't gone up in a while. I'm such a fraud. But so like, how do you ride that first time? How do you just ride that out and just be like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to just keep showing up.
So again, I'm stupid. So I didn't like, I was the same as you, where it took me a while to realize that it is an everyday thing, like basketball, like sports. Like, there's a work ethic to this shit. It seems so easy when you watch it as a casual observer. So you're like, you either got it or you don't. But the fact is, I was a bad, like everybody, but especially, I was a bad comedian when I started. I was an edgelord. I was like so into Jim Norton that I did like a bad impression of him. And he walks such a fine line and is so good at what he writes and delivers that like the margin for error is so small. I'm up there just being like, I'm exactly the same, you cunt, fart, you know, like whatever. And it just like, it would
the
work.
Microphone's like ringing and it's like a shitty fucking dive bar.
And it would work to an extent because, again, the delusion can only carry you so far, but there were like more good sets than bad. But it's one of those things where I don't know if it probably took me like five plus years to recognize what it took to do it. You know, or at least with me, and even there's levels to it where it's like, okay, that was my first little bit of realization. And then like at 8, I had a little bit more of a realization. And then when I quit drinking, I had like, it's just brought me to a different level with my, not only just writing and performing, but understanding my own brain and how it works and listening to thoughts, because that's what I was bad at, man. It's like when you drink, or when I drink, I shouldn't put this on anybody else. When I drink, oftentimes it's to mute the voices. Right?
No, you can put that on me. That's
So it's to get out of my fucking head. It's to slow everything down. And I recognized that I was basically silencing my writers. Like I was drowning them in booze. And once I stopped, and once I started, it took me a while even after stopping to kind of shake that shit and get fully comfortable on stage. But it's like once I stopped, I recognized that these voices were in aid. Like they were coming through with things that, even stuff that I would say to my friends that was entertaining, and I would repeat those stories as if they were bits, two different buddies, and it would work. And then I'd go to stage and be like, the difference between dirty strip clubs and clean strip clubs. And it's like, this is not what I talk about. This is not what I am. I'm just copying comedians. And just the idea of me doing that to my friends and then translating that to stage only dawned on me very late. So, it's embarrassing, but it's true,
That's so hard to do, though, because this is a common theme I feel like I've talked about with a few guys, probably because it's something that I personally am so curious in, because, like, that's what I'm kind of, like, going through right now. Is just, like, on stage, I feel like, well, first of all, the edgelord thing made me laugh, could say. My first few times getting up, it was just, like, what would be the most offensive thing I could say just in... And they weren't even really funny, but I was just like, I don't know what else to say.
It's a guaranteed reaction.
Yeah, so like women can't vote. And it's like, that's not even a good joke. They can. And it's not even a good joke. Like,
I mean, funny enough is that's circling back. You know what I mean? Like a lot of that stuff is rewarded now, where it's not necessarily like great comedy, but it's saying something that like you're not supposed to say flatly. And that can be used really effectively. Right, but it also can come off super lazy.
Well, I was doing it as like I've been on stage twice, and I'm 19. I was being it's so embarrassing and cringy, and I'm whatever.
Oh, dude.
But
wait till you're in your 30s and you think back to that and you start just shivering out of fucking embarrassment.
I'm like, dude, there were real people in that room. Like, holy shit, that was not the worst thing I've said. And also, dude, I also remember like every set I was like, I think that went pretty well, just because I was up there. And now I look back and I watch videos and I'm like, there were like 3 people laughing, and dude, I don't even know if you've experienced this, but when you're watching back your old tape and the main laughs are coming from the person holding the camera, which is obviously your buddy, and you're like, oh god, I thought this was way better than what it was.
I have one set from '08, which I put a clip of it at the end of my special because it's at the same venue that I filmed my special. So it was at Triad Theater. I started out, I did a bringer, like first show in New York City. I brought 65 friends and family.
Holy
it was like insane. Yeah, I made the booker like tens of thousands of dollars, and he gifted me with a tape that I got to pay for. And so, but like,
you just cut out there.
Just cut out.
Now it's back.
I'm back. All right, sorry.
Okay, anyway.
That just did that for no reason.
All right, we're back.
Yeah. So I don't know what I was talking. What was I saying?
The Booker show where you brought like 65 people and you got.
Oh yeah, I did. I wish that there were. I wish that there were like a little bit more footage from when I started. So because. Listen, was I embarrassed by it? Yeah, but it does like on a default level, or at least like a small, like kind of like it gauges your success. Where it's, I started this trying to be really good at comedy. That's still my main objective, is to be really, really good. I hope that success kind of comes with that, right? As you progress and get better at your craft, hopefully success kind of comes with that. But the only way to really know is it's like watching my son grow. Is every single day he looks the same to me, but then you look at pictures and you're like, holy shit, like you're fucking huge. You got so big over the last 6 months. And it's similar with comedy where you're like, I don't know if I've gotten better. I think I suck. I don't know what's going on. I haven't done well in a while. And then you watch an old tape and you're like, oh shit, like there's actual tangible evidence that I've progressed.
That was a great analogy. I don't know because you stopped talking, now? But the audio. I just finished the audio, and then you were smiling while I was still finishing the audio, and that's the first time I was like, I think this might be fucked up, because I was like,
that's so funny.
I'm like nodding, and you're just like not talking. Like,
we both did the sitcom thing though, where we like stayed in.
I was like, yeah. That's awesome, dude. I just like I mean, it's so funny because you can tell how far you've come just like I remember writing down in like trying to write jokes and writing down like parentheses, long pause. And I'm like,
Yeah.
God, dude, like what am I, or just like writing down like do and then do something with your hands. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this? Like it's just, but like you grow in everything, I guess. But trying to find your funny voice that you are with your friends when you find out for the first time, oh, I'm a pretty funny person,
Yeah.
like then that's just never I feel like how people start off on stage. It's always trying to like be a comedian, not be yourself being funny, which is so strange because the only reason you have the confidence to get up there is because you've been funny your whole life and everyone tells you you're funny and your friends you crack them up all the time. So then you get up there, then you're like, I'm gonna be someone else now everyone tells me I'm funny, now I'm gonna try to be some other person. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy how that works.
I forget who this might be a Geraldo quote, or I forget who it comes from, but they were saying that it's like there's a difference between being super funny with your friends and then being funny on Tuesday at 8:35 p.m.
Yeah.
You know what
true.
I mean? Like
that's true.
It's hard to fucking do that, to be able to turn it on and to also on some level perform mind control on a room full of people.
It is mind control.
To understand your
I'm gonna make you make an involuntary noise and bodily reaction against your will. Like that's magic. Comedy really is magic in a lot of ways. All right, I got one last question for you, and then I'll let you get out of here. We've been
just unplugged. There we are.
Oh, we're back. We're back now for the last question, and then we'll let Mike Cannon get out of here. No, I think that this is something that my audience would really enjoy hearing about, and something that I, from cutting all these clips, I would really enjoy hearing about. These New York comedy hangs look so much fun. You guys seem so much more fun than the LA crowd or the Austin crowd. You don't have to say anything bad about anyone else, but like how fun is it hanging out with these New York comics? It feels like right now the group of comedians in New York and shit is like it's just the best. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good time. It's hard. It's harder to hang out now because it's like, it's a 24/7 content production arm now. Everybody has to be their own studio. And so the hangs and community has fractured a bit. And obviously with all of the political bullshit that is now like infiltrated stand up, and you're either on one side or the other. And if you make a certain kind of joke, you can't sit here and similar and, all that stuff. It's just like, so that's listen, wherever you go, you got to find your people, right? And when you find your people, it's the best. And when you find people that care about the thing that you care about the most, the same, then it's just another level. So New York comics that I've found, or at least the ones that I hang out with and respect and love, they are obsessed with comedy as a craft, as a skill, and what they're trying to control is their output and body of work. But outside of that, it's like I've hung in some pretty brutal circles in New York too, where the only conversation is algorithm and how do you do this and that, and it's like,
dude, this is what I'm trying to escape right now. Is
I know
this shit. Like, yeah.
So there's times where New York feels a bit LA-ish, and it's out of necessity. I don't even hold a grudge against it. It's what we've all had to do to create careers for ourselves based on opportunity given or whatever. Right. So it's just about finding your people, man. Like, Feeney and Sagalo, those two are my best friends. They're the ones that I do the podcast with. Very good buds with DeStefano. But again, we're both headliners and on the road. So it's hard. It's hard once you start working like that to then come together. And we have he has kids. I have a kid. So it's hard to kind of find that time to hang. But when you do, it's like, it's the fucking best. Yeah. There's nothing better than hanging with comics and just like, just letting it rip. It's the greatest.
Dude, it sounds awesome. And like I saw you recently on Barstool, like those I'm such a big fan of that whole, like company in general. Like, and they're kind of part of the New York comedy scene, but they're not comedians,
they are.
But they like put on so many, it's awesome. Like, I don't even know what you'd really call them because they're huge in podcasting and they're always putting on comics on their shows and all that stuff. It's like, it just seems like it's going on right now in New York. Well, it probably always, that's could have been true for any time in history, I guess, but it seems.
I'm just going to talk to you through here now because this thing is fucked.
Oh yeah, no, we're pretty much wrapped up anyway, but I was just like, I love, it just seems like all the content that I'm like wholesomely enjoying. Because nowadays, like editing all these clips, and it's like a lot of the podcasts that I used to really like, it just seems like I'm mostly watching them when I'm trying to make some sort of video about it or something.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's like, especially that Barstool stuff is like content that I can still just enjoy, that ties in comedians, and it just reminds me of just like, dude, this is just like a fun hang.
Well, and those guys they're good guys in the sense that like they are a self-contained organism. They don't need comedians. They do not. They have their own characters that sell their shit better than bringing in anybody from the outside would do, because it's like, it's like a closed community. But the great thing about like Kevin Clancy, KFC, Feidelberg, like all those guys that are now platforming New York comedians specifically, they don't have to do that, but it's the shit that they are. Like that's why I thanked them on my special, man. It's like those guys are legitimately helping the visibility of some comedians who do not have that opportunity elsewhere, where it's like I get put on, I'm on podcasts all over the place. I haven't done TV in a little while, both intentionally and also like not, like I would like, of course I would like an hour on Netflix or HBO or Comedy Central or wherever. The offer hasn't come through. So what am I going to do? Wait? No, I'll put out my own shit. I know how to do it at this point. And these guys at Barstool who have a major media platform are deciding that like they respect that shit. They can see it as people who have done it themselves. They started from grassroots, ground floor shit. So they're like, fuck it, man. We'll put you on too. We like what you're doing. And, we'll try to expose you to as many of our fans as possible.
Yeah, dude, they just seem like, and this is this word is funny to use in this situation. They just seem like allies.
They are white allies.
Fuck it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike Cannon. This has been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we get to do it again soon. I mean, even if we were just talking sports, like that was just, it was very fun to meet you, talk with you. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. And next time I'm in Tampa, we'll do it in person.
Yeah, for sure. Any socials, or you got the new special out? You got
the new special. New special is on YouTube, Mike Cannon Comedy, youtube.com/Mike Cannon Comedy. It's called White Privilege Homeless. I have 2 other hours of stand-up on the channel as well. I have a crowd work special coming out in July that I did while on 150 milligrams of edibles. And we recorded it on 420. I'm actually watching the edit now. It's fucking awesome. I'm super psyched about it. So a ton of stuff coming to the YouTube. That's Mike Cannon Comedy. And then my podcast, Here's the Scenario, with Brendan Sagalow and Mike Feeney. And my social is, I just gave you my social security number.
And my social security and my credit card number.
At I am Mike Cannon. And I'm all over the road. I'll be in Philly, Boston, Illinois, you name it, coming up. So with more shit coming in. So,
awesome. Great to hear it. Go check out all of those social links. See them on the road. Thank you again, Mike.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.